Welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life, with Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show.
Hola!
Hola, birthday girl. How you doing?
Oh, happy, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Oh, happy, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. May your dreams come true as we celebrate you. 'Cause today's the day.
It's my birthday, Nicola. I'm 61.
Good God. I can't.
I know. Neither can I. I'm not going to dwell on this because I've got gazillions of news this week. But my thought was, the Queen's 90 and she's still working and sprightly with it. So that's quite a good role model.
It is. Another 29 years and still fighting fit. Marvellous.
Exactly right. Yes. And I'm going to do the podcast with you, and then I'm going to take the afternoon off, and I've got lots of little treats lined up. Like I'm going to take the dustbins out, it being a Wednesday.
You do. You live on the edge. You do. I tell you.
So let me tell you my news.
Go on then.
Well, it's been rather exciting week. Yesterday, somebody came round wanting to persuade me to gazump the woman that's buying my flat.
Oh, that's not nice.
Well, it's not nice, and I'm not going to do it because I'm too principled. But she wanted to offer me £10,000 or £15,000 over the asking price, and save me the estate agent's fees, so that she could move her mother into my ground floor flat.
Oh, see, that's everyone's got a price, and that would be nudging up towards mine.
Well, she stayed here for 90 minutes last night trying to persuade me.
Really? God, that must be so difficult.
Well, interestingly, we have a lot in common because she owns a flat in the building, and she let me know that I'm not the only one that has suffered at the hands of the freeholder. She has too, and so have several other people in the building. What a shame we didn't meet before, because we could all have bandied together, but there you go.
Yeah, move on, let go.
Exactly, and she's going to stay and fight him. I said, I'm moving on, I don't want any more of my life wound up with him. And then I spoke yesterday afternoon, the Pay What You Want man from Houston, Texas, rescheduled himself for yesterday afternoon, and he's a very interesting man I'll be telling you more about over the summer, but he's one of those who wants to monetize his life, and he's got a very fetching silvery beard, so I imagine if he's not 61, he's perhaps a little bit older than me, I don't know. But he wants to travel. He's a photographer and a blogger, and he wants people to patronise him, care of Patreon, to drive Route 66 and take them with him on a virtual travel.
Very nice. I love virtual travels. I mean, I really enjoyed going through Vietnam with Derek on his motorbike. Well,
I said to him, how many people, he's American obviously, how many people have it on their wish list to travel Route 66 and will either never get around to it for lack of time or money? If they could sponsor you via Patreon $10 a month, they could come with you. And he's got all sorts of lovely plans for sending them a postcard, which you can do via a sort of service.
Yeah. Oh, nice idea. Yeah. So he could have a blog on the outside that he shares certain things with, and then he could have something on the inside of that £10 a month sponsorship that's special.
Typically for a creator, he had, he said, I'm going to give them this, and I'm going to give them this, and I'm going to give them this, and I'm going to give. I said, stop it, you're overwhelming me. Just give me 3 valuable things.
Yeah.
Anyway, we had a lovely chat, and it was nice. It's interesting that there's more and more people coming to me, I've mentioned it on this podcast before, who want me to teach them how to monetize their lives. And at the beginning, I was of the opinion, do you know that fabulously funny German comedian called Henning Mankell?
No, never heard of her.
Well, I'll send you a clip later because he makes me cry laughing. But he went on to Room 101 saying that you know, you get all of these begging letters from people saying, will you sponsor me to ride my bicycle across Cuba?
Yeah.
And Henning's theory is that they're having a lovely time. Why should we sponsor them to do it? And being German, he's very funny. He said, absolutely, the worst month to live in England is November, when they want you to sponsor them to grow a moustache. And he says that's just a lack of personal hygiene. I mean, he's very funny on this topic. And I was of this opinion at the beginning as well, which is, why would I sponsor somebody to have a lovely life and I'm just going to watch it? But I'm coming round to it very much now, because it's all the rage. And I was going to say it's all the rage amongst younger people, but actually this guy is probably older than me, I think.
Yeah, yes. Would I pay £10 a month to follow someone around? Yeah, I might actually, if they were doing something I felt was really aspirational, and it would be really good for me to watch someone doing something like that.
Well, he had quite a lot of valuable things. That, you know, there is community and there is engagement, and there'll probably be a photo book at the end, and you get discounts off his photos. He's a fabulous photographer who already has a photo library on his site that you can download. But as a member, you would get discounts on that. He got quite a lot of benefits. I think it was worth $10 a month of anybody's money, because that's not very much money, actually.
No, because people just pay that for lottery tickets, don't even blink, don't they?
Quite.
Oh, well, very nice. So anything else this week?
It's probably better that I don't tell you anymore, because we'll be stuck on this section forever. Tell me about your week.
It's been quite a quiet week. I've done lots of websitey things this week, because obviously, we have to do that stuff ourselves now. So I've been looking at turning nc.com, which has been redirecting to clicks and leads. I've just been looking into turning it into a one-page sort of holding thing website, that just goes off to various projects. And I can just change links easily enough.
I've always thought that if you own the domain of your own name and you don't actually use it as a business like I do, that it should effectively be an online CV, like a sort of media page.
Yeah, exactly. So I did it over the weekend, and I thought, not keen on that thing. So if you go to nicolacairncross.com at the moment, it's got a theme on it that I'm not very keen on. But by the time our lovely listeners will see it, it will have a much sexier theme on it, because I found one. The other thing was Nelson, my son, now known as Nelson, had his second DJ gig this week, which went extremely well, and he's got 2 more lined up. But he now wanted a website, and I said, "Well, what's it for then?" And he said, we're doing they've got this. He goes to music production college, and it's run by an amazing guy called Mike Palethorpe, who is not only really clued up about the music industry, but he's very, very well connected. Lots of their alumni have gone on to be big cheeses in the music industry. So they have a lot of very good guest speakers and things. Well, anyway, what they want is they want them all to run a blog for their final project, and the final project is to write, produce, and market and release an EP, which is like a mini album of 4 tracks. And that's what they're working up to now for the rest of the year. And they want the tutors want them to put all the work onto a blog, which is interesting, isn't it? Because it's a multimedia end of year project that the tutors can then find all the stuff in one place as it unfolds. Which I thought was really exciting idea and a very forward-thinking way of doing things. So he's now got nelsonmusic.com, because obviously we had the endless domain name discussion and suffix discussion that we always have. But no, it's all been about websites this week. So and also I'm doing one for my new my other new project, which we keep alluding to, and it's had a name change, as you know. And that was an interesting thing in itself, because the reason for changing the name was quite sound. We came up with a really fabulous, sexy name, as you know, which had the .digital suffix on the end. But then when you go and put in that word, one word, which is how someone I'm working with says most dinosaur business owners would, they would just go and type in the one word into Google, you have to be found. And what was found was a number of other digital agencies. So we didn't want, that wasn't good enough, really. So we came up with another word, which I'm actually very happy with, which came out of just spitballing a name and then me making an associative leap to something that did have some meaning and was very cool. And when you put that one word into Google, we will come up first because there's nothing else owning that name. And I thought that was just an interesting concept for our listeners, really, was the idea of if you put your one word of your business in, I mean, obviously with you do come up first, because having your own domain name makes that possible. But do you own your name, or do you own your main word of your business name? And if not, if you put it into Google, do your competitors come up as well, or are you stand alone, and can people find you easily?
It's interesting. I'm more interested in people finding me for Judith Coach than I am for Judith Morgan, because Judith is quite a memorable word and Morgan considerably less so. So not that I go to much networking, but if anybody's ever met me or heard about me or has heard somebody refer to their coach as Judith, if they can find me under Judith Coach, then I think I've done a good job, and usually I can do that. We have to log out of Google to do it, otherwise it's not a very acid test.
I see, because we're so connected, it would
because it shows you what it knows you want to see. Yes,
that's interesting.
But that's a fun game to do, which is what would people remember? Well, they might remember you're a coach, and they might remember your first name if it's an interesting name.
Yeah, I know that Chris Barrow is Coach Barrow, isn't he? Coach.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
You come up
again, unless you log out.
I see.
It knows you know me, so it's not a fair test. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so on to what set you on fire this week then.
Well, I've kept it very short because our first section was long, but all these wonderful people saying yes to us on the summit, and meeting new virtual global pals, and we are going to have too many people if we're not careful, because there are so many fascinating people doing this beyond the laptop lifestyle thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I got, in fact, I was just looking at some of my notifications. In fact, there's been so many, I can't actually find it again now, but there was a lovely lady, very glamorous lady with dark hair, who said something along the lines of, shared our thing and said, this is absolutely, this is absolutely the best podcast in the world.
Oh, bless.
Which is rather nice. And we are now 60% supported, Judith, with another 50 odd days to go. So
I know, that's great, isn't it? I think if we have we keep pushing that over the next 10 days or so, to get our 100 there would be great, wouldn't it? Well, explain to us what having 100 people sponsoring you on Thunderclap means.
It means your Thunderclap goes out. It doesn't go out if we don't get to 100. So we've.
I see. That's interesting. Good. Yeah. Okay.
Because I know someone else is running a Thunderclap at the moment, or ran one, and they paid something $40 or something, and they thought that meant their Thunderclap would go out, but actually no, they were just paying for a mention in the Thunderclap newsletter. Oh. So we have to get to 100, and I'm very confident that we're going to do that. Which, as you know, targets aren't my thing normally, but I'm very confident that especially if we have a last minute push in the last 2 weeks, we'll do it. And then
I think we will, and I'll put a link in our show notes for this episode number 77, if anybody's listening, that they can nip to ownitthepodcast.com, check out episode 77 and find our Thunderclap link.
Yeah, or just go to Thunderclap and search Own It Summit and you should find it.
Okay.
It doesn't cost anything to do. It takes literally a couple of seconds, and then if you want to, after that, you can share that you've supported us on Thunderclap, which obviously helps as well. But yeah, 60. If we're 60% supported, and it's already going out. If we can get to 100% to over 200,000 people via our 60 people's social reach, which is very exciting. So,
it is. Yeah,
that's been setting me on fire. Securing Yarrow Starrock and you securing Joe Barnes was very exciting. We got two really good names with different.
I am amazed and delighted about Yarrow. Are you not?
Well, I have been in his membership site for a long time, giving him sort of small amounts of dollars, and I have bought all his products, and we have had many conversations within his membership site. So he didn't have to say yes, not all.
No, he didn't, and quite a lot of the big ones haven't. I mean, some big ones have, but quite a lot of the big ones haven't. It's lovely to have. To meet an abundant person that's prepared to give you an hour to talk about themselves and inspire others, I think is entirely the right way to be, don't you?
Well, also, I think, Justin Brooke put me straight at the beginning saying, tell them what's in it for them. What's in it for them is getting one of those 200,000 people. And I'm now running Facebook ads to build an audience using that little video I made at the weekend.
Yeah.
So that was great fun. And, the audience, the video views are costing a penny a pop. but we're building an audience of people who've watched it all the way through to the end, and then we can spin off a lookalike audience. So we are getting these people in front of new people that, you know, our audiences, the other speakers' audiences, and other people that would never have found them otherwise.
And I think that the Yarrow Starricks of the world just understand that, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They completely understand it, yeah.
Yeah, it's enlightened.
Yeah, the other thing that set me on fire this week is I've watched one of our guests, Justin Brooke. He's working up to a new course. Now, he's got some... If you want to make money online, go and look up Justin on Gumroad. He's got 4 or 5 really fabulous little courses on there, and he's very down to earth. It's no fluff and no filler. And he does them all, Judith, you'll love this, on a pay what you want basis. But what he's also just sent out an email. So go to his I Am Scalable website and get on his mailing list, because he's just sent out an email to his mailing list, and he's released what he calls lesson 11 from his forthcoming course. And he does some maths in it. In fact, he does it on his phone. He's in Bali, because we talked to him the other day. He was using a little pen on his phone that turns the screen of his phone into a whiteboard. And he was doing he did 3 case studies of why, if you're running paid traffic, everybody's doing it wrong if you're sending people to a squeeze page. And he did the maths on sending people to a squeeze page versus sending people to a sales page. And he showed why, even if you only convert, I mean, it's low ticket items we're talking here, you know, pay what you want. And he said this is why he does his courses on a pay what you want basis, because he reckons that if he sends 1,000 clicks and the clicks cost him 50 cents, that's $500. And if 1% of people buy his pay what you want page on Gumroad, and he says it's an average of $15 what he gets for courses. So some pay higher, I definitely pay higher, and some pay lower. Then he's doing is he's using paid traffic to acquire customers rather than opt-ins. And he says then you can go on to sell other things to those customers.
Which is what I told you the first time we talked about Gumroad, which was the first thing they do is pay to opt into your list.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, and they're paying what they want, so they feel grateful to you, so they're more likely to open your emails.
Yeah.
Well, I'm testing it, Judith, so I will come back to you on the results, because I'm testing it with my Facebook ads course, which is on Gumroad on a pay what you want basis at the moment. So
gorgeous.
I'm running ads to it, so.
And I'm paying your sister, albeit in instalments, on a pay what you want basis for the work she did to me on that website last week, which is great. And the guy from Houston yesterday paid me what he wanted.
I love that. I said to her, so what what are you charging Judith then? She said, I'm going to do it on a pay what you want basis. And I thought, brilliant, because you're the one who started it all.
Yeah, she is the one that started it. Yeah, by telling us about a website person in America.
That's right. Yeah. Then you really sort of kept it in our minds for while we all caught up with the concept, psychologically speaking.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good test for all of us. That's the point, because it tests our trust and abundance and faith in human nature. And I think we're all a little bit frightened. We won't get enough. They won't pay us enough. We'll get ripped off somehow. It brings up all of those issues that we used to work with clients in the money gym on, and that are still very much alive in so many people and in all of us in a small way. And this kicks it out of you, because you just have to be absolutely delighted with whatever people pay you.
Yeah, and interestingly, I've had 17 people click through to my listing, and I think the listing is quite good. It's got testimonials on it and all that stuff, and none of those 17 people have actually even gone for it on a dollar basis yet. So there's something going on with them that they think it's too good to be true. It's not worth the money, or any money at all, or it's not what they expected to see when they went through on the ad.
Well, I tell you what I would do if I were you. I would look at Justin Brooks' equivalent page and see if he does something better than you've done on yours.
Oh, don't worry, I have. Poor old Justin, he's been plagiarised terribly. Because I love the way he lays out his sales pages. They're not fanciful or ridiculous claims or anything. They're very down to earth, and so I have done it on that basis. The other thing is, of course, when people get into my course, which is, I've done this so low tech, Judith, you wouldn't believe it. I've got a page on my website that's got the Gumroad thing embedded in it. Because, of course, if you do Gumroad, you can't put any tracking code on it. So I thought, how can I get around the tracking code issue? So I put a Gumroad bit of code on my website. So I'm sending them to a page on my website where Gumroad is embedded. And then, so I've got a pixel on that. And then when they go to access the course, which is done, as you know, through a PDF document that Gumroad gets them to download, they're coming to another page on my website where, of course, I've got another pixel. And then if they get offered the chance to sign up on a monthly basis for a simple little support package, which is run by a Facebook ad group, and it's done on a PayPal. Is it PayPal or Stripe? I can't remember, but it's quite a really simple thing. It's not going through the shopping cart. I've done it really on a very low tech basis because I thought if it works, this is another product. You know, I can actually show people how easily I did it without getting all high tech.
Yeah.
So I'll let you know how it goes as the weeks unfold. That should have been your update.
Preaching to the choir there, because you know I like it low tech, because you know. Yeah,
should have done that in project updates, but never mind. It set me on fire and it got me going this week. So there you go.
A word from our sponsors.
This podcast is sponsored by clicksandleads.com. Clicksandleads.com believe in affordable traffic and leads for everyone. They'll set up your Facebook ad campaign, page likes, leads or remarketing, then they'll manage it for you. They'll even split test your ads and audiences to find the best performing ones. Game-changing marketing from clicksandleads.com. So what are we going to talk about then? Challenge or opportunity of the week?
Yes, it's challenge. I've got 2 or 3 up my sleeve. I've had rather an inspiring week in terms of challenges, and I've had to pick between 3 for today. And you're going to think that actually this is prompted by our week. It's not prompted by our week, but we will talk about ourselves as well. So one of my clients reported in on Monday something that's been brewing for a long time. She's collaborated on a project with another human being. And so I thought we would talk about being business partners this week, the mixed blessing of being in business with other people, because it's also come up with us this week. So the podcast has been a breeze for us because you do all of the work. But this week we've got
you're doing all the admin.
Well, we've got more involved with working with one another in the way that we used to in the olden days, and it's a mixed blessing. I'm sure I've got up your nose and you've got up mine. It's not easy to partner with other people in business. So I was having a think about, I mean, obviously with 2 people, you create the work of 3 or more. So on your own, you can only achieve what one person can do. When there's 2 of you, 1 plus 1 equals at least 3, I reckon. I don't know what you think. And I think you can be better than the sum of your parts, if that makes sense. I think you go further. There's leverage when there's 2 of you. My client and her partner, it was a creative collaboration where he wrote the words and she did the pictures, but they had to market it after they created it, and the bulk of that fell to her. And she has been resentful at times, and the mixed blessing is that when he's done some of it, he hasn't done it in the way that she would have done it, and now he's dropped her in it to finish it off herself, which in many respects is, when you're angry with your business partner, to be left alone to finish it off yourself is sort of a good thing, because you believe that you can do it better than the other person. When you get in high dudgeon, you think, oh, I just wish they'd leave me alone to get on with it. Now, it's not better, because then you're being a victim and a martyr, and you're taking on, leave it to me, I can do it best. It's not a good thing, that. So I was thinking we would brainstorm, as you said, or rather I said to you, you're doing all the work, and you said, but you're doing all the admin. What I think it has to be is, it has to be work of equal value. So yours might be more time consuming, but yours couldn't happen without mine, or vice versa. I think that business partners have to be prepared to adapt to each other's working styles. So I can't say, I wish you'd do it my way's better. And you can't say that either. We've got to be flexible and bend towards one another in order to make it work. I think we've got to communicate well. So we had a very funny conversation on Monday morning, I think it was, where you said, look, you're emailing me, you're Skype chatting me, you're PMing me on Facebook, and we're working on Trello. I'm going to open up a 5th channel where we can communicate all in one place. I went, no, let's talk about this. We don't need any more channels. Let's just work out one that works between us. And the very fact of us talking about that eases a lot of stress that you've been sitting there thinking and I've been sitting there thinking. I think we've got to be patient with each other. I think we've got to be forgiving for perceived flaws. I think we've got to value each other's strengths. I think we've got to manage each other's weaknesses. I think it's testing, Nicola, being in partnership with other people, but it's still probably better than being on your own. What do you think?
I'm still reeling with shock at the thought that I might have got up your nose at some point.
Well, I know I got up yours. Don't be silly. But this is the point. This is the point. And we've agreed in this podcast that we would, you know, tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. The fact is that you know, the problem with you and I is we're both creators. So you really don't need two creators. You've doubled up on you've got two chiefs and no Indians. I mean, we are two chiefs having a go at the respective parts of being the Indians, but it's mostly good. You know, when it's good, it's very, very good. And when it's bad, it's quite testing. I'm not saying it's been bad in the last week. I'm just saying that. I'm
only teasing you about being hurt. I'm not hurt at all.
Good. I know you're a bust, but you know, it goes on, doesn't it? There's stresses and strains that a grown-up has to step over, I think, for the bigger game.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because we know each other so well. I think we subliminally knew how it was going to roll, with me doing the tech and the enthusiasm, and you sort of sweeping up behind and trying to make things work on an admin kind of basis, because you're just naturally much more organised than I am, and you stop for long enough to sit and plan things. I mean, the thought that you'd actually sat and planned the timing schedule so that we could have 10-minute breaks in between each one was a thing of beauty and wonder to me, Judith. My brain just went into meltdown at the very thought of it, because it wasn't. I could only manage it when things start on the top of the hour. But there was you gaily planning 20 past, 15 past. I was like, what? But it worked very well. So, you know, and it did, you know, that sort of thing. I think we subliminally knew what working with each other would be like because we've done it before. I think a real big issue would be where. And also, you know, I know that you don't like, you don't like to learn too much new tech. And, you know, to give you credit, you've got to grips with Trello really well. And you know that I'm shit at admin. I mean, I always think I'm great at it until it actually comes to doing some. And then I realise how shit I am at it.
I'm just going to remind you of a story that when we very, very, very first worked together, which was 2002, on our eventual first ever coaching call, you said, let's draw a nice circle, and I went, couldn't have a spreadsheet. And having got to grips with Trello, which isn't that great, to be honest, because you have to scroll right across to the right hand side which is bigger than your screen, and you can't see all of the things. Anyway, whatever, I am using it, and I don't mind it actually. And ours is not the only project I'm using it on. And one of my colleagues in another project is going to do a video to show me how to use it better, and she's using it much better than us. She's got all sorts of coloured things on it. But anyway, the point of this story is yesterday I had to cave in and do a spreadsheet, because organising the speakers, which is I invite them to speak, get their agreement to speak, schedule their call, and when I schedule their call, I have to put it in your diary, my diary, their diary, go to webinar and something else, I don't know. Then I've got to send them a contracty type of letter. You know, there's so many stages to it. Or some of them you've got to do that because they're your special ones. I had to get up a spreadsheet in the end because Trello just wasn't doing it for me. No, it wasn't. And you said, send me a copy of it. I said, no, I don't. We don't need to do that because it's just for me to organise the bits I'm organising. But I just think it's, communication is the key. So let's not think about us. Let's think about other people. What do we think could help other people? So when I was an accountant, for instance, I had lots of 2 man, 2 woman, 1 man, 1 woman, or 2 or 3 people in partnership with each other. And they frequently were chalk and cheese, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
This is it's a risk for you and I, because we're so similar, two creators. You want chalk and cheese because then chalk's doing the work of chalk and cheese is doing the work of cheese, and it's a nice marriage. But the fact that they're chalky and cheesy drives each other mental. So most of those partnerships ended up in splitting up, often with solicitors involved, which was upsetting and expensive, and then they would fight because they both wanted me to be on their side. And funnily enough, when it's not me, I'm quite impartial. I can see the strengths and the weaknesses of both parties, and unless one's an out and out bar steward, one would try to be quite impartial, especially as I was often the accountant to their business, which was frequently a limited company, which is a separate legal entity. So facilitated the separation. But it's human beings, it's emotions, it's high dudgeon, it's believing, your best. It's a really fine balance of when the other person's being annoying, quote unquote, it's because they're doing it differently from you, the way you would. How can you see that as a good thing? How can you manage your own resistance to them doing it their way? So, for instance, you do something like Yvonne, who we interviewed. You're an incredible fast starter, so you go off like a rocket. And in this partnership that I'm referring to, my client, he'd gone off like a rocket in a way that my client wasn't happy with, because there were high-profile blog posts with spelling errors in it, for instance.
Yeah.
There's a good example, isn't it? If you let that get on your wick, you're just going to get yourself down into a negative spiral of everything he does is wrong, give it all to me, I'll do it. And then you're in this horrible martyr place of, I've done all the work, he hasn't done anything, but everything he did you didn't like or criticised. It's all just emotions. Can you see that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm in a situation with. We're in a synergistic relationship in that we're joint partners in the summit, but we're independent business people, and so it's only one part of our activities. I've sworn I will never, ever, 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 ever go into a partnership where I'm locked in, because you've got this sort of limited company arrangement, and you've got someone in there who you're dependent on. I hate the thought of my success being dependent on someone else. Absolutely terrifies me. Having said that, I am going into, I suppose, albeit very loosely and casually at the moment, I am going into another partnership with someone else, and they are very different to me. And we've already had this conversation about how do we communicate, because even just about choosing the domain name, his point was that any word will do, and my point was I have to emotionally connect with the word that's our domain name. I have to be proud of it. I have to be happy to say it, which is all absolute nonsense. I'm fully aware of that. But if I'm the one that's going out selling the business, which is, I will be initially, then he'll, and we are even in the way we're going to sell the services, is going to be very different to how I'm comfortable doing it. I'm already way out of my comfort zone with a lot of it. Because it'll involve physical meetings and asking people, what does your company need, rather than me thinking, what do I want to supply, and then selling it to them. So it's all very different, and the communication styles are very different. But the reason we're in this relationship is because he sees a massive potential in what I'm doing, but he also knows it's never going to happen with just me at the helm. And I know that too, because he brings a different kind of attitude to business and business people. I'm very emotional. I get very emotionally attached or upset. He just brings a cool head, which I think is going to be an incredible asset to me and will teach me a lot about how to do business more successfully. So I suppose you have to really have a very clear insight into what the other person's bringing to the table. And with us, we've got not only these complementary skills, but we've got this chemistry that people talk about. And I think that's come out of the fact we worked together, we were partners together, then we went off and worked on our own. So, now we're sort of back on this. It's so enjoyable. I think that makes us more willing to overcome the hurdle of, the spreadsheet versus the Trello board.
I think that's exactly right. And so that's an appreciation of the other person's strengths and a duty of care for their weaknesses. And I think the chap that you've just described, his lack of emotion is a good compliment for yours. I hope he values your style as much as his own. He doesn't think his is the best. You need that yin and yang.
Yeah, no, and we, like I say, we had that conversation. I mean, it helps that we're both emotionally intelligent people who've trained us as coaches. God knows what it must be like for people who don't have any of that sort of inner emotional intelligence. And as I've got to get his name in somewhere this week, Gary Vee does talk about this a lot, self-awareness and emotional intelligence. And our other business partner, Steve, he was very not of a coachy persuasion, but he was very emotionally intelligent and aware. So, we managed to muddle through somehow, the three of us. But people in a business relationship, I read that book Traction and I really loved it. And then there was the follow-up book to it. It was called Get a Grip. Get a Grip was like a story version of the principles of traction in action in a business. And that's what the people in the Traction organisation get hired to do, is come in and facilitate meetings once a quarter that go through, board meetings, I suppose. And so it's a really good idea, if you've got a partnership like that, to have a non-exec director who doesn't work in the business and who just comes in, perhaps once a quarter to host and facilitate the board meetings. And perhaps they have, enough shares that they've got the swinging vote, because, you, as you say, when you've got into other people's meetings, you're very impartial, but the people were jockeying for your approval and your vote.
Yeah. They were like people getting divorced, They say at the beginning, if you're a friend, as I've often been, a friend of both sides, they say at the beginning, no, that's absolutely fine. You'll be my friend and you'll be his friend as well. And then 9 months later, one or other of them comes and says, I can't stand you being his friend. You've got to be mine or nothing.
Yeah.
And I understand all of that. I mean, what I put down here was business partners, a mixed blessing. I think that's exactly what it is. There's some good bits, some harder bits to bear. And I think the key to it, apart from the things that you've just described, emotional intelligence, good communication, and so forth, is recognizing that in some, and the majority of it's got to be more right than wrong, hasn't it? Where it breaks up in the end, like in a marriage, I guess, is where you decide it's more wrong than right.
Yeah, I look at things very cold-bloodedly, and relationships too. And I'm not a cold-blooded person; I'm an emotional person, but when I think the pluses outweigh the minuses, I stay in.
That's quite.
But then when the minuses outweigh the pluses, but the problem is when in a relationship, as in a business relationship, if you get to a point of judgment and criticism of the other person and you allow yourself to dwell in that place, then you are always going to find more and more things wrong with that other person and more things about the way they do things wrong. So you've got to catch yourself when you get to that point. And, even sharing a house is a similar kind of thing. We've all got our ways we want things done. I mean, Sarah and I nearly came to blows yesterday because she keeps turning the washing machine off. And I said, well, why do you do that? And she said, because I'm saving energy. And I said, But what happens is I come along and put my washing in and press all the buttons and expect it to start and then walk away and forget that, it's not turned on even.
Yeah.
So my washing sits in the washing machine for a day before I even realise it hasn't been washed. So, but again, that's a question of just talking to each other about what's going on in each other's heads, isn't it? She's trying
that's the equivalent of whether or not to leave the loo seat up, isn't it?
Well, I suppose so. Yes, we're all women in this house, so we don't have that problem. But yeah, I mean, you've got to know what the big benefit is, and you've got to keep that firmly in mind through the testing times. We're going to be more successful in this business because, that you bring this to the table, I bring this to the table, and we're greater than the sum of our parts. As you said, 1 + 1 = 3.
It does, at least, I think. I mean, and the other thing about ours that brings it, this thing about the summit that brings in a little bit of stress about it is there's an awful lot of work to do in a very short period of time. So there's already an inbuilt stress in that.
What do you want about? I've never planned anything so far off in my life.
Well, no, it's for any normal people. They wouldn't be trying to do this alongside everything else, and they probably wouldn't be trying to do it in such a short window. I mean, I'm trying to schedule all the interviews with 20+ speakers in May. They're all in different time zones.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's only a month. That's only a month, really. And
you're trying to get packed up and move at the same time.
I'm trying to move house. Yeah. I'm doing another, one of my big JVs is launching on the 6th of June as well. I don't even know where I'll be on the 6th of June or if I'll have Wi-Fi. That's all come at once. And what that does is it just raises the general, any deadline or any stress raises the general sort of stress. I can't think of a better word, really. Excitement is another word for it, really. And I'm just aware that that's just adds to the risk factor of miscommunication. And as I've said to you in the last few days, I need a response from you faster on this because I'm trying to schedule these people all around the world. And it's just a weird old thing, isn't it? It's just a weird old thing. It's a mixed blessing. And I think it's better than not. I mean, the brilliant thing for us is after we've done this, we can think, well, do we ever want to do it again? And I suspect we'll say yes. And it's exciting. That's the other thing as well. So the good and bad for us is it's a short window, but it's all over quite quickly. So we can sit back and go, was that great? Should we do it again? And we probably will. As I said to you last week, it's like having a baby. You know, within 7 days you forget it, so you have another one. But I think that's built into the human machinery. Otherwise, I don't think a woman would ever have a second baby, quite frankly, after having gone through that. But anyway,
quicker, that's for sure. We'd have admin support next time. I mean, we're doing this on a bootstrap shoestring because we want to see if it'll work, and we don't want to invest particularly any money where we could do the jobs ourselves, which I suppose is completely the wrong way around to be doing it. But
I must say, I did have a word with myself yesterday. I thought, why am I doing all this admin? I should have a VA doing this for me. But next time we'll have a how we do it here manual for this that they can follow.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other point as well. It's often better to do the first one yourself, and then you know where what needs to be done and when, and what the pitfalls are. I mean, a VA $10 an hour we could be doing that, but we don't know what needs doing, and we don't want anything to drop through the cracks, do we?
No. And also, I think when we're reaching out to 2024 global celebrities, I don't think you want that approach to come from a VA. I think it's got to come from you or me. Yeah. I think it's quite a delicate matter. Now, let's just recap. Business partners and mixed blessing. What are the good bits about it?
The fun. It's great fun. Yeah. We have a laugh.
Yeah, we do.
I'm braver with you than without you.
Mm-hmm. I think creativity. You've got two minds, two hearts on a project, two ideas.
Yeah. The bits are getting done that wouldn't get done if it was just me.
Yeah, vice versa.
We're raising our profile. We're creating something that's bigger than us, and it's getting a lot of attention. I like that, and it wouldn't be happening if it was just me. I'd be worrying about whether people were thinking that feedback. There you go, creative feedback. I'd be worrying if people were thinking, "Oh, this is a pile of old poo. What is she doing?" At least because we're both excited about it, and it's got to the point where other people are giving us feedback now. So, perhaps you get braver creatively with a partner.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think there was something, you with your lovely creative videos. Your videos are fantastic, aren't they? And isn't our theme tune being used to good advantage on that?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. And that was great fun doing that. So it was another creative outlet, and I was testing technology I'm testing new technology for this that we possibly wouldn't have got around to using, and then we can both take that into our own businesses.
Hmm. And you say I don't annoy you, but I'm sure I do. So on the days when I annoy you and you annoy me, what should we be saying to each other to manage the mixed blessing part of the blessing?
I think we should practice at being grateful, because that always works, doesn't it? I'm so grateful in my life, especially on her birthday, and I'm so grateful that we get to play together and work together again. After the money gym, we could have gone our separate ways and never. And I really value you as a person in my life, Judith.
Oh, you're a lovely sausage. I was thinking maybe things like I was thinking things like breathe.
Yeah.
So that you can evaluate that the other person, when they annoy you, it's a very small annoyance compared to the gifts they bring.
I think we should. The word annoyance is too strong. I think mild exasperation,
mild irritation,
passing mild irritation.
Passing mild irritation. Yeah, you're very sweet.
Like a cloud.
But I have to say, the client that prompted this, it wasn't passing mild irritation with her. Although I think by the time I speak to her tomorrow, it will be. I think she's had 4 days to calm down. And in many respects, she's doing so well in her part of the project. It's not a bad thing that it falls to her. But I just could feel her resentment. It's just an awful place to be in. And I think also, perhaps, when two creative people collaborate, what happens is there's that zing of attraction, a bit like listeners can track this back over 3 or 4 weeks when you had the idea and I went, oh yes, and off we went. We didn't do any consideration to strengths or weaknesses or communication or who was going to do what or anything. We just were high on the idea. And that's what happened to my client and her partner. They were high on the idea for the creative collaboration. And then when it came to the nitty gritty, it was much, much harder than they'd anticipated.
I think the other thing to remember is that I did get married, and I did say that, till death us do part, and I did end up divorced, and it was for all of these reasons I lost sight of what was good about the other person, and I focused on what was wrong. But it's like a marriage and a business partnership. We act as if, although it's a contract, and especially in a limited company and everything, it's legally binding as in a marriage. But what you've got to do is you've got to remember that there is always room for negotiation. You're not failing if you renegotiate. You can say to your partner, your husband, your business partner, this isn't working for me like this. And, in the same way that I was trying to work out how we could corral all our communication into one place. It wasn't working for me like that. And it wasn't going to work for you learning a new software. And we had a conversation about what we both needed to make it work. And people seem scared to go back to the table, don't they? They seem scared to go back and say, this isn't working for me like this. How can we make it work better?
Well, I don't think people either know how to or like that difficult communication, let's call a spade, a full and frank exchange of views. I think we do know each other well enough that when you said to me, I think we should go to, what was it after Trello you wanted to use?
Well, I wanted to use Slack with Trello.
Slack. Yes, it was when we talked about that. We basically worked out that you'd cleared your email inbox over the weekend and you could respond to my emails faster, and that's all I needed. And it was problem solved. You know what I mean? And actually, that's leading on nicely to my word of the week, which I'll save for a moment. But it came out of that precise conversation.
Okay. Well, I think are we there on the working together partnerships?
Yes, I think we are. I didn't mean it to be quite so much about us. It was prompted by a client of mine, and I've known many people over the years. So I'm thinking of all the people listening who are in partnership with other people, either in life or in business, and sometimes finding that very, very testing indeed. So we've agreed that communication and appreciation and breathing could help, and renegotiation is what you said. Come back to the table and renegotiate.
You're not failing by saying it's not working, and it's just so much better to get it out. And there's something hovering around in the back of my mind about this thing about emotion and being able to be businesslike and not taking things personally, and then it's so difficult to do and so important that you do it, because then there's, especially if you're in a limited company and a partnership, you've got the health of the business to think about. And it becomes, you said it earlier, it's a separate legal entity. And if you can think of the business as being the third person or the fourth person in the relationship, and that you need to both, it's like having a child, I suppose, you both need to nurture the business.
Yeah, it's exactly like a child. What would be great is if the two of us would be grown up and think of the business. Yes, that's exactly how it is. What's good for the business? Is that also good for you and me?
Yeah, and as a rampant narcissist, I don't ever mind talking about ourselves for this section, because what we know, what is it that Rich Sheffrin used to say, that which is most personal is also most general. And any things that we experience, I'm sure our listeners experience too. And if we can have a little breakthrough or just say one thing that helps people think a bit differently about it, then that's our raison d'etre, Judith, as you're going off to France.
Well, indeed, the other thing, of course, is that we're documenting this journey in creating this thing. And one of the important things for us to remember to document is who's doing what. And, is the other person trusting them to get on with it or whatever?
Yeah, jobs and feelings, how we're feeling about it. I've just written down in my list.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Let's move on then. Job.
Okay, so my word of the week is clarity, because that's what we achieved when we had that conversation on Monday morning, where I was aware that we were communicating across at least 4 channels: Trello, email, Skype chat, and PMing on Facebook. And it was just a desperate attempt by me to get you to respond to me fast enough so that I could book in these people all the way around the world. But now we've got a system. So, clarity is my word.
Well, shall we share that system for the sake of the listeners? I'm not convinced it's optimal yet myself.
Well, it may not be, but I am fully documenting everything on Trello. So if you read it, you're fully informed of everything I'm up to, and vice versa.
Can I just ask how you're putting those little red alarm bells on Trello? Because I don't know how.
No, I'm not doing that. You're doing that. I haven't put any red alarm bells on there at all. I thought that was you trying to draw my attention to something.
No, I thought it was you trying to draw my attention to it. So we've got to figure that one out.
Well, it must be that when you put on something new, it does that itself. I don't see those. I only see yours. That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, it's alerting us there's something new there. So yeah, just for the benefit of the listeners, what's happening is Judith we're using email as the primary channel. We're using Trello to just keep track of what needs to be done, but we're using email for any sort of backup communication. And then Judith is just pinging me on Facebook to say, go and look at your emails. That's our system.
That's what we decided. But when I don't get a reply, could you have a look at your email? But the thing that you liked about email that you didn't like about Skype chat or PMing on Facebook is that it's searchable.
Not as searchable as Slack. I'd still rather be using Slack, but there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, just because it's more searchable, much better. Anyway,
can you use Slack instead of Trello?
No, it integrates with it though, so all of the Trello stuff is linked backwards and forwards in Slack. It's just Slack's a way of gathering all your communication about something into channels. So each speaker would have a channel, each the admin would have a channel, the finance would have a channel, and it's just great. But anyway, you'd have to. I don't want to inflict it on you in the middle of this project.
No, okay.
Perhaps if we do something together, then we'll have a look at it next.
Yeah. What's your word of the week?
Immersion. Total immersion. I love it. I spent the whole weekend doing websites, and that made me, bring myself back up to speed a little bit. I love learning by immersion. I love the fact that when you buy a new course, you've got all those lovely 20 to 30 to 40 hours of learning ahead of you. And I love immersion, doing immersion. I like batching my time. I like immersing myself in. So today is about recording this podcast, editing this podcast, and also editing the interviews we've done so far. So our whole day is about recording and editing. And I love that immersion thing. It's a luxury. It feels like a luxury to me.
I'm glad you're editing those interviews because then I can write the blog posts.
Yes. So, project updates next then.
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you what I've done this week. I've scheduled 6 more people for interviews, and that is, as I alluded just now, to quite a long process. Get them to say yes. Schedule in 3 diaries, yours, mine, and theirs. Book it up on GoToWebinar. Adapt when they change their minds about the appointment, which at least one person has done already. They go, oh, yikes, I went to put this in my diary and I realise I'm going away for that day with my husband. Confirm it in writing. As I said to you, pity the poor VA. To do 4 of those took me the whole of Monday morning.
I know, Sarah used to do it for my other podcast, and it was a huge job.
Yeah.
I'd just be given, if it was just me, I would just be giving them my link to my diary, but that wouldn't work very well because I wouldn't know.
Well, I think it's rude. I think it's rude in this example. Actually, I've learned one of our future challenges is I've learned something this week. It's about when you oblige other people to fall into your system, when they're your expert speakers giving their time, or when they're your clients. Quite an interesting thing that I've learned, and we'll save that for another week. Anyway, tell us what you've done on the project updates, because yours is more exciting.
I don't know about that. I created the homepage with all the speakers on, and we filled up the 10 main speaker slots now, so we're on to the secondary speakers. So the challenge I'm having now is, how do I determine who stays in the main speaker, the big slots, as it were. I think it's got to be in order of fame, so that when people come to the page, they see the most famous people first. But I do feel bad about that, so I'm not quite sure what to do.
Is it possible to rotate them? Because I don't want to insult.
It's a lot of work.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. What I'm gonna do is where they've got little photos and tiny bios, I'm going to link through to a proper full page about them, so that they've got the same, people can click through and find out more about them and stuff. Yeah. That's the best I can do really with this theme. I made the video at the weekend, which was funny because I was looking at Animoto and I was thinking, I don't really want to pay for a year of Animoto. And Sarah came downstairs and said, what would it do that Camtasia doesn't do then? And I said, I'm such an idiot. Of course I've got Camtasia. So then I did that, and then I made the ads to show the video, and it's getting I'm getting views for a penny, and a good proportion of people are clicking to watch it, to listen to it as well. And then I can see how many are watching to 50% and 100%, and a good proportion are watching to 100%. So we can create an audience and a lookalike audience out of the people who watch to 100%. Don't think, if you're listening, that video ads bring you clicks to your website. They don't. We are getting a few, but it's all about audience building, and then you make your offer back to that audience. And that's a good way to start if you don't have a mailing list, by the way. I've set up the 2 products and the autoresponders, and I've hooked those up to the opt-ins so that if people opt in, we haven't got any follow-up emails yet. So what I think I might do, Judith, as you write the blog posts, is I might do a little follow-up email with giving people the link to go and read the blog post.
Oh, okay.
Which will be a nice, gentle follow-up for people who opt in or who register to watch for free, and then we can just mention that they can secure all the recordings for,
Okay.
they can enhance their summit experience.
Yes, I know.
And then what else have I done this week? Brought on a few more speakers. I think we need to confer about the speakers because we are probably up to the 20 by now.
I think we are, yeah.
Yeah, and I've just been really, pushing it everywhere, really. I did a Facebook live stream onto the wrong page, obviously. Easy done in mobile phone pages. But yeah, so I then, Sarah's done a blog post about how to download your live stream videos, and then I was able to download it and then upload it to all the relevant pages, then share it. And getting a lot of traction. So I'm really pleased with the way things are going. It feels very, I know it doesn't to you at the moment, but it feels very effortless in terms of the excitement building and everything. It feels like it doesn't feel like something we're having to push hard. It feels like something people are responding to.
I think it is something which is genuinely exciting, that's why.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. And we've accidentally hit on a huge niche here, people wanting to live the laptop lifestyle. We didn't mean to do that. We weren't cynically looking for the biggest niche we could. I think it's just resonating with people, isn't it?
Well, and total magic timing, of course.
Of course. Yeah. Synchronicity. That's the thing about synchronicity. So who or what's impressed?
Well, a lot of my clients rushed into something that I wish I'd known about, because I might have rushed into it too. With hindsight, I'm glad I didn't, because it certainly would have tipped me over the edge with all of these other things that are going on. But there's a handful of people I know are participating in something called the 100-day, hashtag the 100-day project. 100 days of making. Artists, illustrator, cartoonist clients are creating a cartoon every day and posting it, or making illustration every day and sharing it, or doing something arty. I might have gone for 100 days of blog posts or something, for instance. It does seem to be connected to a website called thegreatdiscontent.com, which is...
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's an interesting looking project. I wish I'd known about it in advance, sort of. I'm sort of quite pleased I didn't know about it in advance, actually. But anybody I know who hurtled into hashtag the 100-day project, good on you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm glad I didn't know about it. Yeah. Well, I suppose the great discontent is the not being content with one's lot, always wanting to do better, more.
Well, and I think if you think about it, 100 days of making, so my clients who are actually creating content every day for 100 days, going to do their businesses fantastic good, because A, they'll be visible, and B, they'll have 100 pieces of stuff on their site that they wouldn't have had.
Yeah, absolutely. Write a 100-page book, go on 100 dates. Now, that you'd certainly meet your partner if you did 100 dates, wouldn't you?
Certainly would, yeah.
That comes back to the immersion thing, when I wanted to meet someone in London, I was using Time Out Lonely Hearts. We had to write letters in those days.
I do remember, yes.
So I used to get time out and immerse myself in writing letters to as many potential prospects as I possibly could.
What I like about this really is you're doing it. There's the accountability of doing it with other people. Yeah. It's a fun idea. 100 days is longer than it sounds. It's more than 3 months. It's quite a long thing. But I quite like it. I think it's a brilliant idea. I might do it in future. I'm feeling project envy.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yes, I am too now. But we must keep focused, Judith.
We must.
So, who or what's impressed me then? Joe Nesbitt continues to impress. I am about 9 Harry Holay books down now, and I've just bought a new one last night on Kindle. I'm loving it. My late night reading. I do find myself falling asleep holding my iPad up though, and then waking up and thinking, why is my arm in the air?
Well, I think it sort of bangs you on the nose if you're not careful, rather heavily. Joe Nesbo, you mean?
Oh, Joe Nesbo, is it? Okay.
Yes, it is, yes. Yes, I've read all of those. They're great. I must check to see when the new one comes out.
Blimey, how many are there? Must be about 25.
Oh, I don't think there are that many. Not of Harry Hole. There are only about 9 or 10 of those.
Oh, I feel like I've read 9 or 10 already, but it's probably only about...
Yes, well, you might have done. You might be up to the most recent.
Oh, no, I've got at least 3 more in the Oslo sequence to go.
Oh.
So, yeah, no, great writing, really great writing, and such different plots each time. They're really good. I like them a lot. And he's a very sympathetic character, I think.
He's very compelling, isn't he? He's another globetrotter.
Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Well, that's us for another week. Go and have the most fabulous, fabulous birthday. And
I will.
Yeah, just let us know what happens next week, and I'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. The podcast is called Own It, Your Business and Your Life. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.